Clay, here we are again, fight week. Talk about the emotions, the excitement, and yet again a co-main event. They're still throwing you up at the top of the billing, huh?
Yeah, you know what? It feels like home because it is home. We're coming up on, it's crazy to say, almost 16 years. In 2006, UFC 64, October 14th. It's a date that'll stand out in my head forever, and it's wild to believe and think that we're still plugging away better than ever. And it becomes more fun. Fight week gets better, and now that we have a little more freedom, this is the first fight I've been in since 2020 when they started doing the quarantine fights, I call them, if you will, that we actually get to go out and wander around Vegas a little bit, and we're not held captive, at the host hotel. So it's great to get things back to normal, and this fight's going to be just like back in the day. You're going to see the old school caveman carpenter dude out there swinging the hammers and bringing home a victory.
I dig it. I think a lot of times we forget, about that whole fight week. You guys are isolated. You guys are set away. How important is it for just your mindset of the overall fight week to be able to get out of that room, to be able to walk around, to keep you at ease? I think we just assume, oh, they're always ready to fight. They're always ready to fight. But I'd imagine that most of us, if we were stuck in a room, are not going to be performing at our best because we're not feeling the best. But now that you are out and about, does that give you an extra ease during this fight week that you maybe didn't get to feel the last few events?
Absolutely, that's a good point. I believe that a true athlete, a true competitor, no matter your surroundings, no matter whatever is around you, you're going to be able to go out and compete no matter what, whether it's in front of one fan or 10,000 fans or a screaming stadium or an empty stadium. And that's just how we're wired. Because of, for me and my coaches, Danny Castillo, and our other wrestling coaches, simply because the sport and the love of wrestling and the love of competition. So yes, I love to put on a show for the fans, but I also love to challenge myself and just go out there and compete. So being able to have that freedom and go run around, like today I went and paid homage, over the Mandalay Bay, back where it all started. I went and, did a few mile run there and back and around the freeways and over the bridges and stuff like that. And we just sightseeing and watching the families take pictures. You could tell, some of these people, is it their first time or they've been here before, and, saw some fans while I was running. And to me, that stuff is what Fight Week is all about. For the past couple of years, that was not taken away from us, but it wasn't around. You know what I mean? And fighting in Vegas, it's a fight town. You want to be out and about and see the cool stuff and go hit the strip and be out with your buddies and your family and go to the cool restaurants and see the cool things. Because at the end of the day, I'm still a fan of the sport. I'm a fan of this town. I'm a tourist. I'm a kid, at heart, and that's what keeps me going at this. Is just always staying young.
I know you're a fan of the sport, and I know you're a fan of the people that are fans of the sport. So I know a lot of times, if you are trying to get that workout and you are trying to run down the street, but how nice is that to get stopped and have people say, hey Clay, how important is it to have that aspect, and how good does it feel to have that back?
It always feels good. To me, it's. I remember, one of the first times I got stopped after a pretty big win because we were on the undercard for a while, like most fighters. Our first couple of fights, even after my debut, then I fought a pretty well-known household name for a while. Dean Thomas, who's one of the better commentary guys now, or analysts and coaches in the game. And then I fought Tyson Griffin, and then I fought Roger Huerta on a. No, I'm sorry. Then I fought Marcus Aurelio, but on a big pay-per-view when Randy Couture fought Gabriel Gonzaga, and then we were coming. I remember we were back at Mandalay, and we were about to go up the escalators, and there was like 500 people there waiting, and one dude's like, "Oh my God, it's Clay Guida." Me and my coach, we had never experienced that yet. You know what I mean? And we were already a few fights into the UFC, fought some pretty good names, but then I think that's when we started to get recognition, and then Joe Silva offered me the main event against Roger Huerta, and then that kind of escalated us into a different, I guess, level of fans and stuff like that. So, and to this day, the first fan and the single fan, doesn't matter what age or what, they're still as important as a group of 10,000 fans. And real quick story, and I'll stop rambling. I remember there was the first Illinois fight. It's actually in Rosemont at the Rosemont Horizon, where I used to wrestle when I was little, 7, 8 years old. Um, it was when Anderson Silva fought Thales Leites, I believe, back in like UFC. I can't remember, but I know it wasn't in the city. It was by O'Hare Airport, and we were leaving the stadium, and I had just beat Mac Danzig like a month earlier than that, and then um, I was with a couple of my buddies, my manager at the time, and we saw George St. Pierre and David Loazo, and we were cruising out the back with them. And they're like, Guida, how do we get out of here? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't been here since it was a Foo Fighters concert. Before that was a wrestling event when I was little. I'm like, I don't know. But the UFC security like, here, dude, open this door. Because if you guys go the other way, they're going to be mob the fans. So they open the door. We start kind of cruising. Next thing you know, there's 1,000 fans in the parking lot, and they see GSP, they see David Loazo, they see us, and I'm like, dude, he's like, oh no, he goes like, Guida, run! And I had driven my vehicle there in the parking lot, and we were sprinting through parking lots away from the mob of fans, and they caught up to us. We took a bunch of pictures with them by our car, and then it's funny. I had a Ford Flex at the time, and we fit like 8 people in there. We put all the seats down, and I remember the champ, GSP at the time, we were all, I drove, I had a lady friend in the front seat, NFL former Super Bowl champ, Jay Saylor. He won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady back in 2001 when they won it, the first one with the New England Patriots. And we had 6 people in the back sitting literally like leg to leg. And it was funny just to get mobbed and chased by fans just because of the stardom of GSP.
Sure.
They chased us literally from the stadium out into we were out in the middle of nowhere too in the parking lot. So, but you know what? It was cool. It was funny. We laughed. We took time. We took pictures with them, and they had a good laugh about it. And to me, those are the stories that make it all worthwhile.
It's funny. I'm not sure if you're a fan of like K-pop or big pop stars. Last week was BTS was in town, and everybody was saying about how they mobbed them. So it was almost like you had that moment where you got mobbed like you were a superstar, rock star, or something.
It's fun. I blame GSP, but you know what? I also look back at real classic rock back in the day and think about videos when we were kids. You see, not when we were kids. I wasn't even born yet, but think of Led Zeppelin or the Beatles flying in on a plane with the Rolling Stones, and people used to go out and wait for them to come down from the plane. Like those to me are a whole nother realm, a whole other level of real rock stars, and you don't get to see that anymore. I mean, that stuff's awesome.
But you got to think about that. That's a testament to you that people still feel that about you. For a guy that's been doing it for so long, I'd have to get a mathematician to add up all these fights that you've had. But here you are, 40 years old, right? Still doing it, and still being mobbed for people. That's got to say something and make you feel proud of what you've given to the sport. For people to not say still feel that for you, but in a sense still give you everything that you've earned up to this point.
We're just very grateful and very thankful because the sport has given everything to me. I owe everything back to the sport, and my parents brought us up that way to be kind to others, and our coaches instilled that in us, and to me that's all we know.
And you've always been a great ambassador for the UFC, now one of the longest tenured ambassadors as well. But which is more important to be a good ambassador for the UFC out there and mixed martial arts, or to be the ambassador for wrestling?
Both. To me, they go hand in hand. Wrestling got me to the UFC, and UFC has been my home for 15 plus years. And wrestling is what kept me here. It built me. It helped give me confidence. It helped me as a competitor in other sports too. Wrestling helped me in baseball. It helped me in football. It helped me, socially. It helped me in business and family and things like that. And the UFC, has been so supportive of us and our family and our team. And so it goes hand in hand.
And eventually I will ask you about your opponent. But one last question on wrestling: where do you feel in the United States? Before I ask you about the world, where do you feel that some of the best wrestling in the States is happening? Is it in the South? Is it over in the East? Where's the best wrestling happening in America right now?
It's a combination of the East Coast, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and I believe Illinois is right up there, top 3, top 5. And then another state that's always been one of the best is California. They have a one-class system, some of the toughest, most slick wrestlers ever. So I'll say California's top 5 with Illinois, but Pennsylvania, Ohio, and obviously Iowa, New York. But you get different styles. You get the grinders, the guys that ride on top out east and in the Midwest, and then you get the slicksters and the takedown guys, and very good on their feet and very creative out on the West Coast. And if you guys don't know, next week is the U.S. Open, the Senior Nationals, which is going to be some of the best talent in the U.S. vying for a spot on the world teams and eventually the Olympic teams in this next circuit.
Any names that somebody should pay attention if they watch that one?
Man, some of my favorites, Yanni Diamakahalis, Dayton Fix, who's with Vayner Sports, our same management company, Jaden Cox, Kyle Snyder, Alex Deeringer, Zane Rutherford. Burrows might be competing. Burrows might already have a seed because he just won his worlds again. David Taylor, Kyle Dake, the list goes on and on. There's a bunch of guys used to help out at Montini Catholic and help out at Izzy Style Wrestling. So he'll have a bunch of up and comers and a bunch of studs that are competing too. So yeah, keep an eye out for those guys. And man, I can't wait to catch some wrestling next week as well after a big win.
Awesome. I guess jumping into this one, when you're given this name, when you're given this matchup, did you know anything about him, and what were your initial thoughts when you got this fight?
I don't think my coaches or any of us really had a clue about him, except we found out that he fought on the same card as we did December 4th. That he fought Gritzmacher, and
Yep.
it was really hard to find film on him actually for a while. I was only able to find the first round of that fight. We had to do some digging, do some research, found some film, and yeah, definitely poses similar threats that every tall, lanky athlete, southpaw that we fight does. You know what I mean? Everyone's taller than us. Everyone's bigger than us. Most of them are faster than us. Most of them, all of them are younger than us. But I'll always take experience. I'll always take wrestling over any martial art.
Now, he seems like a guy that comes in and he wants to tout the youth. The youth will prevail over the older guy. You know, he gives you credit for your cardio, gives you credit for your wrestling, but besides that, he feels that his strengths are better in every other area. But he also was quick to tout the youth. Is that kind of the mistake of youth to always say that, oh yeah, you might be young, you might be pretty, but that doesn't win the day?
Yep. No, I wouldn't say that's a mistake by them. I think that's confidence. That's a good sign of, you know what I mean, of an athlete, of a championship mindset. So good for him. And you know what? Most of my opponents are more polished. They have better form. They have better technique than I do. But when it comes down to it, it's just a cage fight, man. And when you get in there with a junkyard dog like myself, man, it's going to be an ugly fight, and we're going to get our hand raised. Somehow, I'll always take experience over youth.
And looking quickly on just like what are some of his submissions, he seems to be dangerous on the ground. He's got knee bar, rear naked choke, arm bar. When you face an opponent like that, does your excitement level ratchet up because you want to show how your wrestling can counter all those sort of things? And if they never even give him a chance, I think we saw that in the last fight, and the guy had submission skills, but you never gave him that opportunity.
100%. Yeah, the things that Coach Danny Castillo and his wrestling pedigree, his jiu-jitsu, he's a black belt, the things that we've been working on, what we did against Mark Madsen, we're the only one that's been able to execute that game plan against Mark Madsen. I'm pretty sure. He's taken everybody down. He's clinched everybody. He's had his way with everybody. What we did to Leonardo Santos, who was X amount time world champion. He had only been taken down a couple times in the UFC. He only had, I don't know, a couple losses in the UFC. I didn't know much about him because, you know what? I leave that up to the gentleman behind you. I leave that up to Coach Danny, Coach Joey, Coach Uriah. You know what I mean? Our coaching staff, they're the ones that do the research. I simply get to go out and execute the game plan. You know what I mean? So they have the hard job. I get the fun part. And what we've been doing in there in these past, I think Coach has been in my corner for almost 5 years now, you've seen my game, continue to evolve. And it's all because of wrestling base, because of our trainers and with the time they put in. And you're not going to see any difference, come Saturday night. We're going to go out there and you're going to have a wrestler versus jiu-jitsu guy, a wrestler versus a grappler, and we're going to put a ground and pound clinic on.
I think everybody always accepts the fact that Team Alpha Male's a top level gym, but do you ever think that people don't give you guys, the coaching staff, enough credit for the stuff that they're doing over there? I know that you're close because you're part of the Team Alpha Male, but you always hear about, oh, this big mega gym here, this big mega gym here. Do you think that the coaching staff there at Alpha Male is getting enough credit for the work that they're doing?
I don't know if I can speak on that. I don't think that. I think maybe we like it like that because the head coaches over there are mainly wrestling pedigree and the mindset of wrestlers, or I guess our background is the sport. You don't really get a whole lot of recognition growing up in wrestling, going to tournaments, sitting there for 8-9 hours all day. You know what I mean? Wrestling a few matches and getting a dinky little medal or whatever. But what goes into those medals is something you take with you the rest of your life. So getting the recognition, I can't speak on that for my coaches or the coaching staff, but I know we cherish the time that they give us, and we owe everything to them. And what the media says, I mean, look at we prove it in the ring. We prove it in the cage, and look at our record compared to other gyms, compared to other big names. It speaks for itself.
That's great. Looking at this fight, is getting a win enough here, or are you hoping to go out there and get a devastating finish? Maybe prove to the young guy that it's not just about being young. What's the goal for this particular fight?
Always. And you know what? A lot of people don't know this. It's contract time. This is the last fight of a 4-fight deal. So I don't have to prove it. There's no pressure on me, but I want to prove to, Dana White, to Sean Shelby, to the rest of the UFC world, the fans, that I'm here to stay, that I'm getting better at 40. And like Coach Danny, I always say, the best is yet to come, man. And we're going to get another contract in there. We're going to go out there and look for a finish like we always do.
You gotten any good fishing in lately?
Not enough. And no pun intended, but Coach Danny and Coach Joey have been reeling me in, keeping me off the water a little bit more during camp, because I'm out there training camp for a reason. They know when I need to go get on the water a little bit, and they'll kind of, let the line out, if you will, a little bit, and they can tell when I'm getting antsy and I need some time on the water. So, but we're there to win fights. I love Sacramento because I can pick up and go fishing within a half an hour. You know what I mean? But yeah, we're there to just ride this thing into the sunset, man. Being in the gym is where I need to be.
Your pun game was very, very strong. I like that. I guess last thing for me, keys to the victory on Saturday. What do you need to do to make sure that you get your arm raised in victory?
Just be the dude, man. High pace, go out there, wrestle, show them what 40 plus years or 30 plus years of wrestling is all about.
That's awesome. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Clay.
How you doing?
Bit of a weird question for you maybe, but you mentioned experience over youth earlier. So if you were presented with a 21-year-old version of yourself, could you kick that guy's ass?
100%. Because I know I was probably drinking a beer at 21 during fight week, and now I'm just drinking water. So just more clever now. We've got more experience under our belt, obviously, and I'm in much better shape now at 40 than I was in 21. And in 21, I was working on a fishing boat in Alaska. So now I'm on a training mat every day.
At what age do you think you might struggle against yourself, where physical prime might outweigh, skill development, that junkyard dog mentality you said you have and can bring, and the experience?
It's tough to say. I started competing my first fight when I was 23, but I really, dove into MMA when I was 24, 25. We had a bunch of fights, and I was in the UFC right before I turned 26. So that grit, that hunger, wanting to get to the UFC and be the best, and some merging yourself into MMA, is I believe I have that at that time at 25 or 26, and I have that. I've reinvented myself and rededicated myself now at 40, and I'm in better shape now than I was at that age. So like I said, I'll take experience in wrestling over youth.
It seems like this sport's so young that it evolves nearly constantly. So since you made your debut almost 20 years ago, what have been the biggest changes you've seen in the sport, maybe more from a technical side rather than the obvious popularity growth?
100%. Yeah, the technical, it's not the wrestler versus striker or grappler versus kickboxer anymore. It is MMA guy versus MMA guy or something like that, or world champion jiu-jitsu guy who can strike, who is also a very good Muay Thai, specialist now against maybe a collegiate wrestler who's got very good striking. So it's neck and neck now. And you know what? It's amazing to see what guys like, Usman and these champs have done, because even though he's been winning in good in fine form and good fashion, but look at, Colby and some of these guys, they're right there. I don't think it's that much of a gap. At least for the champions, to the top 2 or maybe the top 5 guys. That's just kind of how I look at it. I think on any given day, anyone, in any weight class can regain that title. You know what I mean? So there's just a couple of guys. I think that maybe are levels above, and maybe could be Usman, maybe Francis, you know what I mean, Ngannou. So it's fun to see the sport right now because the talent pool is just changing so quickly and everyone's getting better.
I mean, you mentioned those guys, and it's like we've seen pockets of extreme talent come from West Africa. Obviously, the Dagestani guys. I feel like the London show a few weeks back was a showcase of where the British MMA scene is at. Do you feel like that might be the next thing we see in the evolution of the sport, where a new region comes through to kind of, put together a champion that we might not have seen from that country or something like that? Is that where you think the sport might go next?
I would like to see it. It's amazing to see. Honestly, Israel Adesanya was a guy that I wasn't that sold on for a long time. I was like, this guy, looking at his body style. I'm like, this guy is finishing wrestlers and submission guys, and I wasn't sold on it until he did it to Yoel Romero and Whitaker. I'm like, all right, he's the real deal. You know what I mean? And he makes it look easy out there. John Jones to me is the Michael Jordan of MMA. He'll always be the best. Him and Fedor Emelianenko, my all-time favorite fighter of all time. You know what I mean? Those guys I hold up, on a whole different level. But to me, they were eons above, their time. But now I think the talent level, it's getting even closer and closer every event.
And I might be about to answer my own question here because it seems like you just love coming back and putting on a show. Is that your biggest motivational driver to keep doing it at 40 years old, 58 fights?
Absolutely. It's like I said, I love to compete. That's the wrestling in me. That's the athlete in me, and I just love to challenge myself. Coaches know every time we get a new opponent, I'm probably either going to be the underdog or they probably have higher skill set than me. But the coaches, we find a way to win. You know what I mean? They set the game plan. I get to execute it. So it's more of a challenge to myself, and then being thankful that I get to go out there and put on a show and compete in front of my friends and family and people around the country and around the world.
Awesome. And circling it back to Fight Night, we were speaking to your opponent earlier, and he was saying that should he win Saturday, you would be by far the biggest name on his record. So thinking of that, what do you think you bring to the octagon that he will never have seen before in his life?
Pace, ferocity, intensity, and we're the cardio king. That's what it comes down to.
Best of luck on Fight Night.
Thank you guys so much.